Hey, what's up everybody? Coach Austin here. I'm excited to review our first video. It's going to be about shoulder and hip health. It's going to be mostly mobility, but it's going to be some advanced mobility exercises. So I want you to pay attention. This is very important. It's the difference between either getting injured by not doing it or doing it and seeing substantial results. That's what we're here for. So let's get started. Let's first make sure that our resistance band is secure and it's not going to fall off anything we mount it to. We're going to put our right leg through. We're going to be in a half kneel position. I want you to reach across your body, give it a little twist, then shift your hips forward, out to the side. You can reach your arm up and repeat the process. Out to the side, go to the left side, you might be able to feel in the adductor, and straight forward. Lift up the hand. That gets all four of the quad muscles. That's why we call it the quad, because there's four muscles. So I shifted my left leg a little bit further away from me this time, and I'm shifting back and forth. That helps get the two upper groin muscles, which are called gracilis and pectineus. Next, we're loading that front fascial line. We're actually working on a little bit of an elasticity in our hips, helping open up that interior hip capsule. Here I pointed to the outer part of the hip and the inside of that left knee that's forward. Notice I'm trying to keep that left knee forward while I'm rotating the right part of the hips closer towards that knee. You can feel that probably in the psoas, more so if you lift up that right arm as seen. Just repeat that a few times. Go by feel. It's very important to go and do the other side as well. So just notice how I'm repeating the exact same thing I did on one side on the other side. It's okay if it's a little bit of a variation. It's not going to be a big deal. You should be able to feel it out. Here, this is about shoulder health. One of the things that becomes very overactive, especially for a lot of swimmers, is those upper traps that basically connect from the top of your shoulder and run all the way up the side of your neck towards your ear. So what the resistance band is doing is pulling my left shoulder down. Notice I reached over with my right hand and I'm gently tugging on the left side of my head. And if in the middle you want to alternate sides, that'll be important as well. You'll notice a slight difference in the way it feels. Notice I'm trying to make sure my left hand and my left shoulder is relaxed. It's very difficult to stretch these upper traps, and it's a very aggressive stretch that seems to do a good job. I've noticed a lot of different trap stretches. Even carrying your grocery bags all the way from the car to the house can be a good trap stretch if you relax your shoulders. So this is an important one. Next, notice how I reached in through the resistance band and I'm holding it, which keeps it attached to my wrist. I plant my hand down and I'm dropping my right shoulder and I'm opening up. I'm trying to keep my right shoulder somewhat relaxed. Notice how I slid my left hand a little bit closer underneath my left shoulder. Call this a tabletop position or quadruped. Just shifting back and forth. And as mentioned before, it's very important to do the other side. Go based on feel. I notice my shoulders are a little bit tighter than usual since I've been working so much. This is very important for the hips. You'll notice a deep stretch on the inner part of your hips. It's hard to explain without doing it, but notice how the resistance band's right in the middle of my glutes. While I get down, I do not let my back round at all. And by lifting up my hands, I'm feeling it in my lower traps and rhomboid area. It's a very intense stretch. It's great stability for your hips and back to get that whole posterior chain activated while helping to open up the internal rotators in the hips and really do a lot of good inside the hips. And you'll notice it'll feel very good and intense if you've been running a lot. So this is just another angle. And at the top, if you want to squeeze the glutes, notice here I'm putting my elbows on the inside of my knees. So next, we're going to grab a broomstick. I'm going to grab the outer edges and gently bring it all the way back. If you're not able to do that, widen the hands. Now if it feels too easy, go ahead and bring the hands in a little bit. So notice that I'm keeping my elbows completely straight. That right one, my right elbow is bent a little bit, just showing that my right shoulder is a little bit tighter. Here we're just practicing the hip hinge. Notice that my left and right knees are tracking above my ankles. I'm getting the hips back and I'm tapping the wall with my glute. Notice that my toes came up on the bottom there, and so I wanted to scoot forward a little bit, but I scooted forward a little too much. So I'm just trying to find the perfect distance. When I tap my glutes, I feel an intense, what we call eccentric load on those hamstrings, especially for runners and cyclists. The quads are so over dominant, it's great to eccentrically load those hamstrings, because usually the quads is what is usually taking the load. So by training the hamstrings to one, lengthen and strengthen, it's a 2-for-1 bonus. That's me just demonstrating the distance of my heels just from a different angle. And I'm doing the same thing, repeating the process over and over. All these exercises can be done, 2 to 4 sets per exercise. They're very low impact, and you're just going through a big range of motion, focusing on quality of movement. Notice that my hands are probably twice the distance of hip distance, and I'm really trying to keep the shoulders down and back in the pockets. Notice I'm trying to keep my big toes down. Try not to just default and shift onto the heels, lifting up the toes. You want to be able to get the hips back while keeping the toes on the ground. Here we go into a pigeon stretch. Set the knee down gently, drop the toe into plantar flexion. I posted that right hand out and I drop the hips. And I'm dropping the hips slowly. I'm tapping the glute med onto the ground, and then I'm coming back up gently. Going down slowly and coming back up. And then I'm going to go ahead and switch sides. You always want to do both sides. Actually, I'd recommend to do the tighter side first. I notice a lot of people subconsciously have a tendency just to do the looser side first. Just keep going through the process. It's just a series of movements. If you go through the movements, you will see the results. This one should feel pretty intense. If it doesn't feel intense enough, you can always bring that front foot a little bit closer towards your hands. But typically, runners and cyclists and swimmers are all going to be fairly tight there. Finally, we would transition back into a half kneel with the band just below our right glute. And I'm just shifting the angles within the hips where the femur connects into the labrum. I want to be able to really move around and really get the entire joint lubricated and opened up. Notice I had the left hand back, right hand back, left hand back. Just really trying to open up on that spiral line, that transverse plane. Here I shifted the left leg out, one hand on either side of the band, and I feel this very intensely in my upper inner leg muscles, the gracilis and pectineus. And this is something that'll prevent a lot of issues if you have any lower back or sacrum issues. Finally, I go ahead and switch sides. You can pick up the toe as well. And here's a variation, a final variation that we're going to finish with. Shifting onto the heel, stabilizing yourself with your hands. You can give the toe a tap. You should feel all the way down the backside of the leg and into the heel. And there we go. Alright, so there you have it. some very important hip and shoulder movements, mobility focused things that we can do after our heavy days that are going to make all the difference. The first time you do it, just go by feel. First off, you need to make sure you have the tools. Find a resistance band, find a secure place to mount that resistance band onto. Get a broomstick. The one that I was using in the video was a paint extension handle. So if you have any comments, feel free to email me at fastesttransition.com, or you can comment below if you're watching on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. Till next time, later.